Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we got a video by a channel called BMO Nuss titled A Clueless European's Guide to the NBA. So obviously I'm not European. I guys know that's obvious, but I'm not European. But, you know, I thought it'd be interesting to see the perspective of the European guide. Now, when it comes to European sports, you know, man, like, as far as like basketball players go, I mean, there's a lot of European players that I really like, you know, over the years and everything like that. And, you know, they all got my favorite soccer team, too, Real Madrid. Absolutely love them. So let's go ahead, get going on this, see what it's all about.
Oh, hello there, European. I see you may be in need of some distraction right about now, and personally,
Well, I actually went to the bathroom earlier.
And maybe you've heard of this NBA thing over here
European?
in America, and you might even be a little bit curious about a sport where scoring happens more than twice every 90 minutes. Yes, the NBA, the ultimate sport for the dopamine generation. And much like your favorite
Very
sport,
true.
the objective is pretty much the same. You dribble, you pass, and you shoot, trying to get a ball into a net. I mean, come on, go ahead and watch this fast break, and tell me that it doesn't look eerily similar to a beautiful counterattack in your guys' football. And I think this is partially why
Looks just like that.
way more successful in spreading the game internationally. When it comes to international exposure, it's been putting the NFL to shame for decades. And yes, there are other rules and intricacies about it, but much like all other American sports, you know the deal. Every time anything noteworthy happens, the broadcast will go ahead and show 6 replays, all in slow motion from angles you didn't even know were possible, while 2 commentators break down in detail everything that happens 3 times over. So don't worry about learning the rules, it'll be drilled into you. And honestly, you don't
Which
need
I needed personally when I started watching basketball.
Oh! Yeah.
Greatest
you
sport of all
understand
time.
awesome, all right? And the point of this video
Greatest sport
is
of
not
all
to
time.
get into all the minutiae and the details. No, it's just to give you a quick Spark Notes guide on how to get into the NBA.
Here we
Where
go.
the players
Let's
can
get
watch
it.
the storylines of the season so far, the big trades that just happened, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll be primed and ready to watch America's beautiful.
If you are somebody that just like I said, like just loves, I've said like a dopamine rush or stuff like that, the NBA is the best sport around, like straight up. Like there's never a dull moment. There just isn't, unless I mean, you know, people didn't really like the 2005 Pistons Spurs finals matchup, but I liked it. But yeah, man, like I love basketball. So great, so great.
So welcome, my non-American, to a clueless guide to the NBA. Now, first off, I'd like to give a quick little shout out to my boys, Jimmy and Justin, because full disclosure,
Okay.
I've been a fan of the NBA since the days of Space Jam 1. But I'm not not as hardcore
Man,
as
smoking
my
that
homies,
flight
so big
pack.
thanks to them for helping me out write this. But first off, you might be asking yourself, hey,
What's he doing?
why are you making this after the All-Star break? Half the season is already done, you lazy fuck. And first off, not wrong. But secondly, oh dear child.
Never too early
Let
to
me
pick
let
up
you in
as a
on
basketball
little
fan
secret
either.
All American fans already know about the NBA, but they don't want to admit, and that is, the NBA season doesn't really matter until after the All-Star break. It just simply doesn't. There's too many games in the regular season, and unlike in your footy league, where every game matters because the record at the end of the season ultimately determines the champion, in American sports, you just need a record good enough to make it into the playoffs. And the other reason why I'm doing this after the trade deadline is because players move around so frequently now.
Yeah, I would say like in the past and stuff like that, it was definitely, I don't know, I thought like seeding and stuff was super important, but now it just seems like, especially like these days, you know, with just like players missing so many games and stuff like that, and just having a lot of other X factors out there with like why players aren't playing, or maybe you're running like this lineup this game, this lineup the next game and stuff like that. It definitely is a case where you simply have to just make the playoffs. I mean, I think like the Brooklyn Nets are like prime example of that, where we know they'd be a higher seed if it was completely 100% healthy, NBA season, everything like that. But yeah, like they're just gonna make it and they're still gonna be dominant. But yeah, we'll see.
Then anything I would have said at the start of the season would have been outdated. Now, don't get me wrong, the regular season can be exciting and fun to watch, but ultimately,
Why I would do a billion
unless a
rebuilds
team
every
or
season.
player is on some historic
thoughts?
run, it doesn't really matter until about halfway. In fact, a lot of the smart teams, they do load management, where they don't always play their stars every single game, or they limit their minutes until you get to the playoffs. And that's when everything fucking matters. And bruh, playoff basketball
it matters.
is the fucking best.
Yes, sir, man. Luka. Woo! Man. For the win. Can't
Honestly,
beat that.
it's
Can't
one
beat
of the
that.
most riveting sports products consistently year after year. Right up there with the NFL playoffs and the Champions League knockout stage.
Tayshaun Princeton
It's
first.
just as good. The intensity, the tactics, it's all turned up to 11, where any weakness is exploited mercilessly. Play basketball makes my dick so hard that I honestly, I gotta make a separate video on it. But for this video,
Why not be able to be
first,
on YouTube?
Let's just focus on the basics, all right? Now, the second thing that you need to understand about the NBA is quick history lesson. The NBA is drastically different than what it was just 10 years ago. For the longest time, getting
Ain't
the
that
ball
the damn
into the big
truth?
man close to the basket and having him score was the most logical and most consistent way to get buckets in the NBA. There was never, ever a team in NBA history that was good enough to win through pure shooting. So historically, big men like Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, they ruled the roost. That was until the Warriors.
Yeah, I'll say before the Warriors, and they win a championship, not the Warriors, but I would say like the closest thing that I remember in recent memory, like before the Warriors, was, I was thinking about like the Orlando Magic back when they had like Jameer Nelson, Rashard Lewis. I think Pietrus was on the team. Hito Turkoglu, like that was definitely. I think Keon Dooling, was he on? I know he was on the New Jersey Nets, but I don't know if he was on the Magic ever. But yeah, that was like a team that it was all about shooting and stuff, but obviously had Dwight in the middle. And then the Golden State Warriors came around with this like, well, instead of just like having that dominant big guy that we feed in the middle, like you just want like a dude that can play some damn defense, and then we're just gonna keep on shooting the three ball and just rock out with that. And yeah, it's kind of what the Warriors took on.
Broke basketball. Now you probably already know about this Steph Curry character because he does this.
Steph the deep.
Does it every game. Very often.
He's one of the most entertaining players to watch. He's the greatest shooter of all time. But what you might not know is early on in his career, he looked like a bust. And that was not for lack of skill or his shooting was still great then, but he was just always hurt. He had ankles made of glass.
And his body wasn't like,
he just could not.
Didn't give off NBA body vibes.
Sucked.
It was small.
Massive dick back then. They just made awful draft pick after awful draft pick after awful draft pick for 50 years. Statistically, that should be impossible. They should have lucked out at least on one or two. And when they took an undersized Steph Curry and his ankles started to disintegrate,
yeah, T-Wolves almost ruined that future.
But thought, another first round bust for the
issues.
Warriors. But because the Warriors sucked, that allowed them to draft high enough to get a guy named Klay Thompson. And then something interesting happened. Miraculously, Steph Curry healed his ankles. He was fine.
Is that the key to NBA success? Is sitting out your number one pick, or your top pick, I should say, for like a season or two, and just keep on like getting them top 5 picks or whatever? Well, I guess Klay wasn't a top 5 pick. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about like Joel Embiid and stuff like on the 76ers. Like my mind jumping to that, where it's just like he sat out and they were able to like build like a really good team because of that, and obviously with Curry. But yeah, I mean, the Warriors did just draft really well. Like, call it like it is.
And these two players would literally change the way the NBA is played. Because it just so happened that these two players became two of the greatest three-point shooters in NBA history. And what you gotta understand is 10 years ago, shooting threes used to be looked at as like a low percentage Hail Mary.
It's the thing you did.
Only take if you were completely wide open, or if it was late in the game and you had to catch up quick. If you passed up an easy two to shoot a wide open three-pointer, a coach would bench your ass for the rest of the game.
I'm a little bit, what is that?
That's why I didn't make the damn, well, in all fairness, I think that was Andrew Bynum. That was Andrew Bynum, right?
I don't think Mike Brown liked it.
Yeah, as did that today, he'd be damn benched too.
This was just taught in basketball. It was gospel from grade school to the league. You don't shoot threes unless pretty much you absolutely have to. And that was just the way it was until Steph and Klay proved the NBA wrong. Because the Warriors proved that you could win a championship by just making more threes than your opponent. And some people at first thought it was a fluke. That didn't last long because next season, they lit everyone the fuck up. That 2016 Golden State Warriors team set the best record ever for a regular season at 73-9. Better than the Michael Jordan Bulls. And then miraculously, somehow lost in the finals after being up 3-1. They lost to LeBron in the most epic finals in the past 20 years. And as a Warriors fan, I'm still not over it. So what did the Warriors go and do? They got fucking Kevin Durant. Yeah, because that year just so happened to coincide with a massive increase in salary cap, which gave the Warriors enough.
It's like actually bringing up bad memories.
Durant to already the greatest regular season team the world has ever seen, and then was right back into the finals up against LeBron. And yeah, it was just too much for the King to handle. Golden State won that one, and then they won the next one. And honestly, they probably would have won a third in a row if KD and Klay Thompson didn't get injured in the finals. By this point, the rest of the league was like, okay, we got to do something. It was either adapt or die. So pretty much now in the NBA,
always got to adapt.
Everyone and their mama can shoot threes. Even the big men, the 7-footers, have to shoot threes now. If you're a big man, you can't shoot a three, you're pretty much obsolete.
Right, everyone's damn Dirk now.
You, the game is way more offensive now. As opposed to the 90s and 80s where shit like this would happen. Yeah. The NBA was a different time in the 90s.
But also, like, I have no doubt either that, like, some of them big dudes from, like, back in the day, I bet you they could all shoot that damn three. It's just they just didn't because there was no reason to at the time. Like, it wasn't, like, part of the game. But, man, like I said, like I said, well, I've been a minute since I said this, but, like, I think it was, 2017 is when I met Big Ben Wallace, and the dude was just literally shooting threes. Like, he was just, like, that's what he was nailing every single one of them. Like, all these dudes can shoot.
So you get it. The game is less about
Damn, Ben
lumbering
Wallace.
big boys and now a game about ball movement and chucking threes.
Y'all see that
so the
Ricky
next
Fountain
logical
sighting?
question you might be asking yourself is, what team should I follow? What team should I become a fan of?
Detroit.
Besides the Warriors, because I don't want to be labeled a bandwagon.
Detroit, man.
And honestly, yeah.
Cade.
Don't be a Warriors fan. They're the most annoying fans on Twitter. But for most of my European viewers here,
I don't think Warrior fans have been really as annoying as of late, to be honest. I would say, I don't know. I like Toronto Raptors, man. I said they were the comeback team of the year, but I just said that fan base. I just think because, like, it's all the Canada and stuff like that, so it's just a lot more. But I just feel like all Raptor fans are the same, man. Like, they just, like, get sad because they feel like they're not, like, acknowledged by, like, the other NBA fans and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of annoying, but I also get it, too. But, yeah, outside of that, who do you guys think is the most annoying fan base?
I think there is...
I don't even know if that's
pretty
annoying.
obvious
It's just
choice.
kind of
And that
like,
is, I think most
we
of
see
y'all
you guys are a
should
good
be rooting
team. Like, it's
for the
fine.
Dallas Mavericks. And that is simply
Mavericks?
because they got the best up-and-coming superstar in the NBA. And he also happens to be European. Yep. You know him. You love him. It's Luka.
Well, at that
While
point, you're
names
honest,
like
right?
KD, LeBron, and Curry are the current kings of the court, this Luka kid is calling next. Now, what's fascinating about him is he isn't actually super athletically gifted by NBA standards.
He actually
apparently
played
tested
for Real
horribly
Madrid.
in speed and jumping, which is pretty important in basketball. But in that testing, what they also found out was that he is nearly superhuman at stopping and starting. And in the modern NBA, where you just got to make half a yard of space to get your shot off, when he's on, he's nearly unguardable. And he's not just a pure scorer. His combination of
Damn, was
basketball
all that
IQ,
pass. Oh,
shooting,
that
and
pass.
playmaking ability is
Oh.
all already elite. He's not just good for a European. He's just straight up one of the best players in the league already. And his highlight reel is must-watch YouTube fodder. And if he can get his three-point shooting just a little bit more consistent, we could be looking
Kinda how Cade
at a
plays.
future league MVP and possible champion in the making. And on top of that, the Mavericks have just always had a long tradition with European players. Of course, they famously won a championship with former MVP Dirk Nowitzki. That big boy was from Germany. And of course, now they drafted Luka Doncic. And then even back in the day,
they just,
had
like,
Steve Nash
handed
for a
that
time.
torch
Okay,
right
I know.
away.
He's Canadian, but, close enough. And honestly, he should be an honorary European because he's on record of saying that he used tactics from his time playing European football to revolutionize spacing and passing in the NBA. And even recently,
Wow,
they traded for
Drummond,
more
nice dunk.
Europeans. They traded for Kristaps
Totally wasn't the
Porzingis,
pass that made that
and they got
cool.
Boban. Considering this team's history, you could call them Team White Power in a non-racist way. I mean, the team has a history of having great white power forwards. Just saying. But if you're a little bit too impatient for a European to take over the NBA, well, what if I told you the Europeans have already taken over the NBA? Because the current
Here we
reigning
go,
champion
Giannis.
of the NBA and the NBA Finals MVP is also
Hey, Squid Games!
European.
I watched
of
before it
course,
was
I'm
popular.
talking about the Greek freak, Giannis
Day it came out, actually.
Antetokounmpo. In a land of genetic monsters, Giannis might be the freakiest. The man's body looks like he was personally sculpted by God to play basketball. A pterodactyl-esque wingspan,
Actually, a good way to put
athleticism
it.
to jump out of the gym, a former MVP winner, and a former Defensive Player of the Year. He is not just a Greek freak, he is a Greek god.
He was on
should
Christian
be
Wood.
on Mount Olympus for basketball. What is there not to love? The only question about him was never his ability, but there was this narrative that, for the longest time, he just always seemed to shrivel in the playoffs. But, not last year. Because
not
he silenced
anymore.
all the critics. Just to make it to the finals, he had to come from behind in a series to take out the Brooklyn Nets, a team led by Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie
Wait,
Irving.
grabbing his
And
side,
then
man.
he went on to beat a lightning-hot Suns team to lift his first NBA
Shit out of here.
championship.
Tayshaun did
a
first,
championship
though.
that he capped off in Game 6 by dropping a 50-burger on the Suns. And then after the game, went to
I
a
could eat 50
Chick-fil-A
burgers right
and
now.
ate 50 chicken nuggets on IG Live.
Could also
What
do
a
that
legend.
right now, too.
And the man is just a marvel to watch. His long strides, his Gumby arms make him the greatest dunk threat the league has ever seen. Just go ahead.
The
check
ultimate
out a
2K
few of his
cheat
games that
code.
He's playing, especially in the playoffs, and you will not.
Not
be
quite J.R. Smith in
for white
2008,
Europeans,
but
there's actually more, because Luka is probably an MVP in the making. You got Giannis, who's the former MVP. Would you like to guess who's the current MVP? Yeah, he's also European. I'm talking about the Serbian Titan, Nikola Jokic. Now, I told you that the big man is kind of obsolete in the NBA, but not this one.
Well,
nah. This 7-footer is a fucking unicorn. Because this Goliath of a man has the passing...
I don't know if obsolete's the word. I think the traditional big man's a bit obsolete, where they still have their place in the NBA. Obviously, you got your Clint Capellas and guys like that, protect the basket and grab rebounds and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like the top, like the MVP type of dudes. Like, you got your Jokic's, your Embiid's, your Giannis's out there, your big guys that can handle it and everything, too, so...
And shooting ability nearly
position has just changed so much.
Curry. He's very much kind of like Luka, but even taller. And because he's taller than everyone, he can see over everyone. And the length in his arms allows him to make passes over the top
passes
of
are crazy,
that
man.
Are pretty much unguardable.
Crazy.
Oh, and he can also shoot the three. And when he's behind that three-point line, at 7 foot tall, no one's blocking his shot. The man shoots like an old guy at the YMCA, but he's so fucking
You got that Rasheed Wallace release.
And that's just on the perimeter. When he's in near the post, he's got Hakeem-level footwork and a feathery soft touch.
Damn,
he's not the flashiest player in the world.
17
but
offensive rebounds.
These subtleties, all these little things add up to make a superstar, an all-world player. And he's even breaking decades of stereotypes that European players are soft because he nearly ended this dude's career by checking him. Seriously, do not fuck with Serbians, bro. Also, his brothers are like trying to fight everybody at every game. It's hilarious. So I'm just laying it out for you, my European friends. 3 of the best players in the NBA right now are European. And you can make an argument that the 2 best players in the NBA right now are European. But this European invasion
LeBron and KD
is not anything new in the NBA. In fact, Europe and the NBA have had a long history dating back for nearly 50 years. There have always been a proud line of European players coming into the NBA. Of course, there was Dirk, and even before him, there was Vlade Divac, who was one of the first big men who could really pass the ball, as well as revolutionizing flopping in the NBA. And I know you Europeans love flopping. It's like your favorite part of football. I get it. You brought that love of flopping into the NBA, and now it is a crucial and quintessential part.
I hate flopping, man, so much.
In your European honor, I'd like to give you the top 3 floppers in the NBA.
Here we go.
At number 3, you know him, you love him. It's the king, LeBron. Ooh,
James Harden, number 1.
Beautiful acting job preparing him for Space Jam 2. At number 2, we got Chris Paul. Oh, man.
Hey, ain't nobody don't like Manu Ginobili, though. Manu Ginobili is just like S-tier flopper.
He's so annoying. Why is Chris Paul so annoying? Why are you like this, Chris Paul? And at number 1, yes, I think a lot of people can guess this.
Yeah.
It's James Harden. His catchphrase is fear the beard. I would say it's more like fear the free-throw line. And all this wouldn't be possible
fear the
if
flop.
Vlade Divac didn't
Embrace
introduce it to our beautiful game. Vlade Divac pretend fell so that other NBA players could also pretend
nobody
fall.
don't like Manu.
And we thank him for it. And on a more serious note, there are actually
Love Pedro.
a bunch of great European players through the years. Of course, who could forget Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, both played for those legendary Spurs dynasties that dominated the early 2000s. And yes, I know, Manu Ginobili is Argentinian. But once again, I'm going to make him an honorary European because he came up through the Euro Leagues, and he was one of the first players to really popularize the Euro step. Yeah, your go-to move in 2K was given to the NBA by an Argentinian who came up through the European leagues. And oh yeah, Tony Parker, who was French, and beyond being a great point guard for many years in the NBA, winning a bunch of championships, he just banged so many hot women. And then after he retired, just complained about a bunch of stuff. So definitely
Yeah, he was
French.
with that Evan Longoria.
How about this connection? NBA legend Kobe Bryant actually grew up in Europe. Now, yes, he was born in Philly, but he moved to Italy when he was 6, and he was actually fluent in Italian.
Io sono cresciuto qui in Italia. Allora,
yeah, be talking trash in all sorts of languages.
Sarà vicino al
it's
mio
actually really cool.
Sempre.
Italy is actually where he learned to play basketball, and after that, he actually spent a little bit of time in France. Kobe was always fond of Europe, and he even grew up an AC Milan fan. I'll give it to you guys. If you want another honorary European, you guys can claim Kobe Bryant, because Philly doesn't claim him. In fact, Philadelphia made him cry. This was when he won the All-Star game in the 90s, and the Philly crowd, his hometown crowd, booed him. Always sunny in Philly. So Europeans,
wait, why'd they
claim
boo him?
Kobe Bryant? I'll give it to you too. And listen, there's a lot of names that I'm missing here. There's Rudy Gobert, who's probably the best defender in the league right now. The Gasol brothers, who were monsters in their prime. Tony Kukoc, who is part of those legendary Michael Jordan Bulls teams. The past, present, and future of the NBA is European, bro. It's just before the internet. Y'all didn't know about this shit. Now, by this point, you might be noticing that beyond the Mavericks,
it's no longer the National Basketball Association. It's the World Basketball Association. I love it.
Have now to just move around.
We get the best products
superstars on
from the entire world.
Marvel movie. And you, as a new fan, are probably better off just finding players that you like, follow them throughout their careers. And younger fans in America are already doing this. They are more fans of players than they are of teams, and I can't blame them. When LeBron has played for Cleveland, then Miami, then back to Cleveland.
Well, it's hard sometimes to get invested in a full-on team, like number 31, just because, like, you know, loyalty ain't really as prominent a thing anymore. I feel like I always say prominent. I don't think I use it correctly. Prominent. Yeah, it's not as prominent anymore. So it's like, you switch to the team that your favorite player is on, but
Then
I don't know,
to the
Detroit
Lakers,
basketball
and
for life
finally
on my
to
side.
the Toon Squad. There really is no team loyalty.
I haven't seen that movie yet.
James
I don't think I
Harden
ever
has
will.
forced his way off of a team in back-to-back seasons. The big stars in the NBA are all Zlatans. They're just playing for all the teams. I get it. You don't have to stay loyal to any teams. You want to watch the Ronaldo of the NBA play the Messi of the NBA. The Mbappe of the NBA play the Haaland of the NBA. And as a new fan, I'm going to give you a couple of sleepers, a couple of young
Messi the
players
GOAT,
that
right?
are just budding into superstardom that I think would be good bets to tie your horse to. First up, and I think this is what everybody's money's on. He's the most fun player to watch in the league right now. It's Ja Morant.
J.A. Morant.
When he was initially drafted, he was considered the consolation prize in the Zion Williams sweepstakes. But
Yes,
ever
he
since then,
was.
Zion has really struggled to
Oh
stay
my
healthy.
gosh, the athleticism!
Ja, with a chip on his
Look at
shoulder the
this!
size of Mount Everest, has just become the most electrifying player to watch in the NBA. He's become this like weird mix of like prime D Rose and Allen Iverson, explosiveness and absolute fearlessness at
Great
the rim,
comparison, honestly.
monster dunks, sick handles, and the attitude and swag to match. I mean, literally, this man has no fear. He is a marauder that leaves piles
He's
of
more
bodies
athletic
in his
Iverson.
wake.
Wow, never
And I
even
know
thought
I
about
said
that.
earlier that there's probably no
Damn.
need to follow any teams, but the team he's on, the Memphis Grizzlies, are a fantastic watch this season. They are a rare breed in modern professional sports because they are all young and they all seem to really love each other. Authenticity is so rare these days. A lot of people talk about it, but the Memphis Grizzlies, they're
They
about
bring
it.
back
And you
Mike
know what?
Conley,
They want
Marcus Gasol, and
all
Zebo
the
for the bench unit.
They are rude, disrespectful, and I love it.
That Pau can come
They
chill
went
too.
at LeBron's Lakers and cooked his old ass. Look at him. He was tight. Oh, man. LeBron was so bad. They were like up by 20, and they were still killing him. Just straight up just talking shit to the King's face. They are young. They are ride or die for each other, and they don't give a fuck who they play. And guess what? They've already smoked the Warriors twice this season. They beat the Lakers.
Might become my
Absolutely
second
no one
favorite
wants to see
NBA
them in
team.
playoffs.
I
If
can
you
see it
have to
happening.
watch just one game a week, my money, watch the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant. And probably the second most fun young player to watch this year is LaMelo Ball. You might know him, he's the youngest of the acclaimed Ball clan, and he's been a celeb since high school. And there were some questions about him when he was younger, but now that he's made into the NBA, he has kind of turned into everything we thought his brother was going to be. He is an elite playmaker, vision for days, and he does it with spice.
I think
He's
Wilds is a
throwback
bit
to the
more
days of one of my favorite
composed.
players of all time.
Less of a risk
White
taker.
chocolate, Jason Williams. Because look at these dimes, man. Oh, the no look
And better
underhand pass.
defensively.
Oh, so pretty. He's only in his second year in the league, and he's already an all-star. Now, if you watch his highlights, you think that his three-point range is infinite. But in actuality, if you kind of look at the stats, he needs to improve on the consistency there. But, that's like
Yeah, I
every
call him
other
the Brett
young player
Favre of
that
the
I mentioned
NBA.
so far. And honestly, when you watch him, it's not for the consistency. It's for the sizzle and the swag.